Hi.
This is Beth Cirucci with Americans for Prosperity, and I'm sitting here with my friend John Vento.
Hi, Beth.
CEO of CIS Installers.
Yeah.
But we are sitting in this beautiful music studio. So you are also a musician. Thank you
Yes.
so much for sharing this
Yeah.
beautiful studio
Thank you.
with us and for joining me today. We are not talking about music. We are
Nope.
going to be talking about business and government policies.
Yep.
But to start off, why don't you tell the audience what you do for a living?
Yeah, well, I own a company called CIS Office Installers, and we just celebrated our 40th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. We started on May 1st, 1983,
Wow.
with a dream and a credit card, and we were dumb enough to think we could be successful. And here we are 40 years later through a lot of ups and downs, But basically, we're a service company. We don't sell office furniture. But we assemble, install, deliver, warehouse. We unfortunately decommission a lot of facilities in this current climate.
After COVID,
Yeah,
the wave of home offices.
well, the wave of home offices. So companies maybe had this much space prior to COVID, and now it's this much space. And all that furniture and cubicles and all that stuff, much of it is simply disposed, unfortunately.
Well, speaking of COVID and downsizing, you've been a successful businessman for 40 years. How did you survive that downtime as somebody who literally makes your living off of office space?
Office and activity. Well, it was really tricky, needless to say. And it forced us to rethink our whole business model, first of all. We've been blessed for many years to have a good reputation and good quality service and integrity. So we were still a go-to for these kind of services. It's just that COVID shifted those services from new installations, new offices, expansion, more into reconfiguration, consolidation, what we call decommissioning, the shrinkage. So we didn't feel the pain as much as maybe furniture suppliers did. That was way more significant of an impact, selling new furniture.
And how many employees do you have?
Well, right now we're down to about 25. Prior to COVID, that was at 45 to 50. I don't know where they went. Our core group that has been together for years is still with us. Our younger group, once that $600 a week money started flowing in, I know it was all good intentions by the government to help people, but as often is the case, good intentions go right down the crapper. Because what they did is they created an entire entitlement, a new entitlement group. And, they're dishing out that $600 a week, additional unemployment. And the next thing you know, a lot of these guys are doing side gigs with landscapers and concrete companies, and they're doubling up. And it just created a nightmare, a real mess that still exists to this day.
So what is your biggest obstacle right now facing your business?
Well, I think there's two. Number one is labor. We continue to grow, but we're growing through subcontractors. So we're basically supporting our own competition here in Western Pennsylvania. But the other thing is we are performing with way more national clients. So we travel all over the country in Canada managing projects. So labor's a big one. And then the other one is just simply where the industry might go. There's only so much stuff to throw away, right? I mean, as leases come up and so on. So we're going to have to continue to be very nimble and creative with our core knowledge in the industry that we're in.
So it sounds like you've been able to adapt to change.
We have. Sometimes you're forced into it or you just don't survive.
Yeah, it's not without its challenges.
Yep.
So in addition to your business, I just wanted you to share with the audience what else you do, because you're a super interesting person, and I don't want to let that go without being said.
I'm involved with music. You mentioned that. But the most exciting part of my involvement in music is Band Together Pittsburgh. And that's an organization that I'm proud to be part of that creates music programs for people on the autism spectrum. As a matter of fact, you mentioned your son's drum teacher, Chris Bellin.
Yes.
He is one of our drum teachers for a lot of our kids that are drummers and they're autistic. And Band Together was formed quite accidentally about 7 years ago, and we've grown tremendously. And we have different programs, all related to music. We have music workshops. We teach people on the spectrum to be DJs. We give them lessons in instruments. Every month, at least once a month, often twice a month, we have open mics where we set up instruments. And actually, in a very short period, we're going to have a big event at the Warhol Museum. They host us, and we'll probably get like 40 or 50 performers involved with that. Just anything that involves music and it creates a social connection. We've watched through the years a lot of these. We say kids, by the way, like you're a kid. Anybody below 50 is a kid, okay?
Never grow up.
No. So our age group ranges from anywhere from 7 and 8 all the way into their 40s,
Yeah.
right? Because autism doesn't go away.
That's right.
It isn't like you turn 18 and you're no longer on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But we have all kinds of events, and it's just been a mission of love and acceptance, and we've created a whole family, and it's been a real blessing.
That's incredible.
And I'm involved with the Remember Me Rose Garden Flight 93 in Shanksville.
Yes. Tell everybody what that is.
Well, the Remember Me Rose Garden is a private piece of property owned by the families of the 40 victims, or we call them the 40 heroes of Flight 93. And it is a quarter mile from the National Memorial in Shanksville, PA. Technically Stoystown. So Shanksville and Stoystown touch each other, but
Yep.
and with a ton of volunteers and a whole lot of divine intervention, for the 20th anniversary of 9/11, we created a beautiful rose garden, which is a tribute, and it's a holy space. It's a space of just contemplation, and it's a space of honor, and it's beautiful. It's a living tribute. And our theme is from ashes to beauty. It's only, really, we're just entering our second full year.
And anybody can go?
Oh, it's completely free, open to the public. You pull into the parking lot and you walk up to the garden. And just last week, we planted another 200 rose bushes.
Wow.
So come late June, it will be just an explosive, gorgeous, beautiful garden. And there's a lot of serenity. So check it out, the Remember Me Rose Garden.
And if anyone wants to volunteer for that.
Oh,
can they
yeah,
do
we
that?
need you. Yeah, because we schedule volunteer days. Well, of course, in the spring, we've had 3 of them already. But throughout the summer, we have maybe one a month. And that would include weeding and maybe mulching and pruning. And we have a trail around the property that requires some love, and some work. So just is it theremembermerosegarden.org or remembermerosegarden.org? Forgive me, but it's one of those two.
We'll get that, and Jim will put that
Yeah,
on the
producer
screen,
Jim
right?
will put it right on the thing, and Facebook page and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Give a plug to the audience for get you some volunteers
Thank
for
you,
some
Mary
great
Beth.
causes that you do.
Thank you.
So it's just an honor to know you and to have
Yeah,
this
I'm back at
conversation
you.
with you. Businessman, volunteer, philanthropist, you just do a lot of great things.
Thanks.
So back to government policy, which is
Yeah.
a fun subject.
It really is.
We'll try to make it not, too boring. So I'm going to ask you if the American dream is still alive and well today.
Well, that's a tough one. Of course, people can become successful still,
I would say
right?
you've lived the American dream.
Yeah, I have, but I started 40 years ago. There's a
Yeah.
lot more obstacles today.
Yeah.
A lot more obstacles.
Well, like what?
Well, you've got way more regulations than ever before.
Yeah.
Just the whole recent financial requirements and the banking requirements have changed dramatically. So there's not as much flexibility. I'm an optimist.
Yes.
So can you start a business and be successful? Of course, we see it every day.
Yes.
Is it a lot tougher than it has ever been? Without question. When you have bureaucrats who have never, ever run a business, or better yet, have most likely never been on a payroll.
Yes.
They've been on government payroll. And I joke and I say so many of our political leaders have lived in public housing their whole life. Well, think about it.
Different kind of public housing.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're big, and they go in with their salary that they get, and then 4 or 5 years later, they're worth millions.
Yeah.
Do they really know how to build a business or understand what small business people go through? I don't think so.
No, I think there's a reason they say power and money corrupt.
Oh, yeah, it sure does. And I just feel that, again, my optimistic side is yes, there's great opportunities. And I think the great opportunities are in the trades and physical
Yes.
services.
Yes. Well,
That's
we know
where the
there's
money
a
is.
shortage of that right now.
You're sure darn right there is.
I have a son who's going to welding school right now.
That is where, plus, we're not here to talk about AI, but
Right.
that AI thing is going to impact the tech people
Yes.
way more than it's going to impact landscapers
That's true.
and concrete guys.
That's true.
Okay, so that value is going to begin to shift, and I just think that the trades and skills and maybe industry will come back because of it is where there's some really great opportunities.
So we're going to say the American dream is possible.
Sure it is.
We're optimistic, but we need to have some governmental changes and maybe in regards to restrictions. And,
regulations.
well, a lot of people today seem to think that the answer to all of our problems is in government.
And that's sad, because what is the government? It's not your mother, father, grandparent, your uncle, someone who cares and loves and wants to help and support you. It's some entity that's way out there. And I get it, though. I get it because people are scared, as we get into other topics and we talk about healthcare, for example. I really do get it. And the whole COVID thing actually enhanced that attachment to the government with all those checks being dished out,
Right.
So I sure understand and appreciate people that do feel the answer is the government. But sadly, they're also going to be let down.
Yeah.
Okay? They're going to be let down in the end.
Well, we have to show them where the answer is then.
The answer is in community. It's in local community. Just like years ago when churches were so prominent and they helped each other before there were any of those government programs. It's the closer you get to the people, the better it is.
We call that at Americans for Prosperity bottom-up solutions,
Yeah.
not top-down.
Correct.
And right now, our government system seems to be a top-down type of a setup, and we need to go back to a bottom-up solution.
I couldn't agree more. Those are big giant mandates.
Yeah.
And then you sit there and say, what the hell are you talking about? That isn't even real world, And yes, bottom up is a good way to put it. The grassroots and the people that are every day out there slugging it out, going to work, trying to create something to build this country.
Well, you said to me one time when we were having a previous conversation that the closer to your customers you are, the more successful your
correct.
business
And
will
the better
be.
everything else is. So what
Can
I
you
mean
talk
by
about that a minute?
Sure. So I'll be very specific. I grew up. My father's a landscaper, and I learned about the service business, and I learned about gardening and all that. But more importantly, I learned about customer service, and it was my dad and me and a customer. We were right there in direct communication. Problems got solved immediately. Compare that in business to what we now all go through, voicemail hell. Press 1 for this, press 2 for this. Then you get press 4 for this, press 7 for this. And then you get someone on the phone, and I'm not, again, criticizing, they don't even understand our language.
That
And you don't
happens.
understand them. So they're distant, they're further away from us than they could ever be, and it's a tremendous struggle to get anything done. And that's how I view a lot of big government policies, that they're so distant from us, the customers. Technically, we're the shareholders of the government. We're the owners, or we're supposed to be, right? And the further away you get from that center, the more problems are created. And that's why I think we all need to get more involved with our community government, local government, starting with school boards and the county officials and judges, on to the state
Your
reps.
local council.
And the local councils. That is where the real decisions need to be made to make things better for our communities. One size fits all does not work.
That's true.
It does not work, period.
No. I find that a lot of people don't want to get involved today. I think because, social media has made it very difficult. The attacks, the money to run for office.
Keyboard warriors are very
Keyboard
powerful.
warriors. There's a lot of things that are preventing people from wanting to serve their communities. And maybe some of them don't serve because they're so busy just trying to make ends meet, too.
Of course, but can we talk about the money for
Yeah.
a second? It's totally a disgrace. the money that needs to be raised to become a political candidate. What a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
We have social media, we have public television, we have YouTube, we have all these free outlets that don't cost anything. Why couldn't we just host public debates, and it'll be very clear where the different candidates stand? They could speak, they could put written positions. We don't need this money. And unfortunately, the people that raise the most money often get elected.
Yeah.
Okay?
I know.
Television commercials.
I don't know
and
how to solve
I
that
hate
problem.
you, and you're evil, and you're a child beater. 30 years ago, come on. When we could just have public debates, regularly scheduled, on all kinds of outlets, and then I think you would see really good candidates, common sense people, want to be involved. Years ago when I lived in Sarver, a friend of mine who's in the political world came to me and said, we really could use a candidate out here for state rep, and would you consider it?
Yeah.
I said no, because I am not going to walk around and ask people for money.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it. I'd rather give than take. And if it's required that like some of these guys, they get elected in November, by December they're fundraising again.
Well, the state reps have such a short term. It's basically
Right. It's
1 year off,
nonstop.
1 year of campaigning.
Right.
But we have that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah,
We have a
I
very
know.
large legislature in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I mean, it downsized a tiny bit, but I think we probably have a little bit of an inflated system here.
Our population has dropped over the past 25 years.
Yeah.
So,
let's talk about right now. There's also, I would say, a war against the wealthy, right?
class envy.
Class warfare.
You're on one of my favorite subjects in the world.
Oh, good. So what's your insight?
Well-
Are rich, successful businessmen, the
Yeah,
evils and the
they're
problems
evil,
of
they're
all the
horrible.
society?
Well, first again, I have to come clean. I was raised landscaping with my father,
Yeah.
and just about every one of his customers, short of Grandma Vento, was very wealthy. They were doctors, professors, they were business owners. And guess what? They're wonderful people. They're part of our family. So my dad taught me that there's no shame in being successful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is every successful person a wonderful, charitable human being? No.
Of course not.
But guess what? Most of them are. Most of them are.
Well, that's good to hear.
Okay, where do you think these foundations come from?
Yes.
The foundations that support the arts, that support all these different programs, that the people that benefit from them think they're evil. Mm-hmm. If you caught that, right?
Yeah, the people that
Let's look
benefit
at the
from it.
Heinz Foundation.
Yeah.
The Heinz family is one of the wealthiest in the country, right? But yet they've given so much back to the community for years, including the arts and all these liberal causes. But yet, unfortunately, in our society, people like the Heinz that are successful are ugly, evil, terrible people, right? There's nothing shameful about success, especially when you bust your ass and you earn it.
Yeah.
What's shameful is if you're successful and you don't give back.
Yeah.
That's shameful. Excuse me, but my experience is that most successful people, especially the ones that I know, are generous to the nines. And profit's not a dirty word. Mm-hmm. With profitability in a business, you can give more to your employees. Mm-hmm. You can help them with expenses. You can give higher wages. You can have picnics for their family.
Maybe you could actually hire more people.
You can hire more people. It just all grows. Look at the communities that have been destroyed in our Western Pennsylvania because the steel industry went away. Mm-hmm. Once thriving, energetic communities are now decimated.
Well, now it's not just the steel industry. Now we have a war from this current administration on fossil fuels in general, on coal in Pennsylvania, on natural gas, shale, fracking, you name it.
Yep. And the environmental, first of all, I'm an environmentalist.
Yeah.
All of us want to have a beautiful planet and do the right things. I recently, over the past few years, switched a lot of my gardening products to organic, which is more expensive. Okay, but I'm doing that because of I want to be more aware of these things. But I think we both know that fossil fuel in this country is more environmentally conscious than anywhere else in the world.
That's true.
So we can't drill for oil, and we have all these regulations and restrictions, but yet it's cool and okay if Saudi Arabia and Russia and these places and China, where they don't, I don't want to swear, they don't give a darn
Yeah.
about any environmental. It just doesn't make sense. Also, the cleanest, safest energy in the world is nuclear.
Yes.
Okay, and we've destroyed that industry. There just isn't any logic. It's almost as if there's powerful people that want to send us back to the caveman dark ages. So, I'm certainly not an environmental expert, but just as a guy from Penn Hills that is just like a common sense kind of dude, it doesn't make sense to me that we can't drill for oil in our country with strict environmental regulations, but yet we encourage Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, all these other places. It's just nuts.
So I'd like to see American energy thrive again in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely.
And I think, someone once said it's not either or, it's both and.
Sure.
And I think, we have such a polarizing society right now with government and on the issues. Most people are toward the middle, but we hear so much from the far left and the far right and not the majority of people in the middle. And it's like, well, if you're in favor of fossil fuels, then you're against the environment.
Correct.
And it's not
And
that.
we know that's
It can
not
be
true.
both can be true. You can be for energy independence in the United States and in Pennsylvania, and you can also be for good stewardship.
Absolutely.
We all want clean water. We all love,
Let me tell you something. You're too young to remember. But when I was little and producer Jim was little, and we would drive down the parkway
yeah.
on a beautiful sunny summer day at 12 noon, we'd get through the Squirrel Hill tunnels and enter a cloud of green, orange, and red
Wow.
that was from all those steel mills.
I don't remember
Okay?
that.
No, you're too young. But I'm telling you that our city, just in our region, is cleaner than it has ever been. It is healthier than it's ever been. Can we get better? Of course we can. But what bothers me is all these folks screaming about the energy are the same people throwing trash out the window. Our roads are a mess.
Yeah.
There's trash all over the highways. So if you're going to be committed to the environment, do it all the way. And I think you are correct that you can have both. Good stewardship with common sense energy solutions. And as time goes by, the market itself is, and as it's proven forever, is going to transition into more effective, lower cost, environmentally friendly energy solutions.
But you mentioned the market. I think that's
I'm
the
a
key
capitalist.
point.
I'm an evil
Because
capitalist.
right now we have some government policies and politicians trying to force things
Yeah.
instead of allowing the free market to determine.
If everybody had an electric car today, our entire grid system would collapse. Let's pray that it doesn't happen that fast. It could happen in the future. Where's the electricity coming from? We're shutting down nuclear plants. We can't we can't mine for coal. So where is this electricity coming from? Yes, solar and wind are great. They augment, but they can't possibly, at this point, as we sit here in 2023, they can't possibly create enough power
That's right.
in order to support
cannot meet
the
the
new
demand.
government mandates.
Right.
They can't do it.
So we've kind of answered a lot of the question of what's wrong with government. What is wrong with government today?
Well, I think we did answer it. It just is. It's just a distance. It just isn't close enough to the people that are most effective, and also it's all driven by money. It's all driven by money. These folks are influenced. So you run for Senate. Let's go federal. You run for Senate, and you get millions and millions of dollars in your campaign, and you don't think you got to pay those people back. Of course you do. So you lose focus of the bigger picture of who your community is. Not everybody. I'm sure there's a lot of
There are
great
some good politicians. out
Sure there are.
We don't mean to bash all of them.
And they don't necessarily maybe agree with our positions,
Right.
but at least they have integrity. And, I've got a neighbor who I love. We disagree on a lot of positions, but they're filled with integrity. They're consistent. They walk the walk. They talk the talk. And I truly believe that politically, that if you look at the whole entire focus of our society, that all of us agree on at least 75%.
Mm-hmm.
We want our communities to be safe and clean.
Yep.
We want our children to have good education. You know, we want to grow. We want to be able to pay our bills. We all agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, for some reason, this divisiveness, which has really gotten bad over the last 15, 20 years,
Yes, it
has splintered us. Like you said earlier, you know, that if you don't agree completely with me on this, then you're
Right.
shut down or canceled, right? Cancel
Right.
culture.
Right.
So I think the problem is that our government has become way too distant.
Mm-hmm.
Let's remember our founding fathers
Mm-hmm.
never had an election for a senator. The senators were appointed by the governors. So when the governors left, the senators left with them.
Mm-hmm.
A new governor came into a state, the senators came in with that governor
Mm-hmm.
because the senators were to represent the state.
Mm-hmm.
They were never elected.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, they represented the governor's policies.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was in the early 1900s, not sure the exact date. Producer Jim can put that on the screen. It changed
Producer
to an
Jim
election.
has a lot of homework.
So now we have senators that are there for life.
Yeah.
Life. They're 89 years old. God bless them. 89 years old. That's great. But they can't possibly relate to what we are going through today.
Yeah, we've kind of got away from representatives of the people.
Sure.
I mean, government, you were supposed to go and serve and then go back to your business.
Or your farm, usually, or your church.
Yeah.
And now we've turned politics into a lifetime career. And again, as I said earlier, you go in a pauper and you come out a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how in the hell does that work?
I don't know how we're going to fix that.
I know how to fix it. You got to eliminate the money. And we've got to have a huge push for term limits and a huge push for public campaigning.
For limits on campaign donations.
Well, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Just do what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them are afraid to debate
Yeah.
because if they don't have that damn teleprompter in front of them, they don't know what to say.
Or they're fearful of saying the wrong thing and having it blasted all over Twitter.
Which,
Going
guess what? In
viral.
this conversation, I'm sure there's some big mouth me. I might be saying some wrong things. And when you put this stuff out, could be the end of my rock and roll career,
That's why we have Jim.
which I would blame you for that. My non-existent
That
rock
would
and
be
roll
terrible
career.
if I was the cause of
It would be.
end of your musical
I would
career.
never speak to you again.
Because you have a great band. So
Well, my career cannot end in music because I really don't have one. So there you
that's
go.
not true. You have fans all the way in Florida. we
Oh,
learned.
yeah, all over the world. Yeah.
Yes, fans all over the world.
South Africa, right, Jim? Number 2.
So, you know, Americans for Prosperity is the name of my organization. So obviously we're for a prosperous citizenry, and prosperity to me is success. And success is defined by every individual. You know,
Yes, it is.
what is their American dream is their definition. Everybody has their own hopes and dreams. But ultimately we want people to not have boundaries in their life that prevent them from reaching their version of the American dream and being successful. So I guess my question to you is, prosperity is possible today for everyone if what? Can you fill in the blank?
It starts with a great, great attitude.
A good attitude, okay?
Optimism,
Good, yep.
enthusiasm, and then, of course, it transfers right into hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to just basically be really, really committed to whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, they say if you love your work, it's not work.
That's
not
right.
the correct saying. I forget
Well, you
it.
find what you're passionate about, and
Yeah, and it doesn't
you-
feel like
you
work.
Make it
Right.
your life's work.
And I think it's a real commitment to have some self-satisfaction. And, you know, you mentioned prosperity, and that's what your organization's all about, success. I define success as freedom. Freedom to live the kind of life that you want to live. And I'd like to give you a quick example.
Please.
Right up the street from me is a young fella with a beautiful family. He's a landscaper. During the summer, he's a landscaper and an avid golfer.
Okay.
So during the
That's
summer...
kind of hard because his golf season is landscape
Well,
season.
I'm going to tell you how he does it. Gets up early.
Yeah.
He puts in a 4, 5, 6 hour day,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's very modest lifestyle with a small home, a beautiful small home, Ford pickup truck, and another small vehicle. around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock every day. He goes, plays 9 holes at the local golf course. He's home for dinner by 5:30 with his family and does it again the next day.
Yeah.
Now, most
That's
people...
what you call work-life balance, I think.
Sure it is. In my mind, he's the most successful person around here. Will he be a millionaire? No. Does he have $200,000 in his account, every day of the week? No. But is he successful? Hell yeah.
Yeah, well, he's
Okay.
living his version of the American
Yes,
dream.
he is. He's prosperous. And he has that balance. So I think it's all defined by your personal views and what those goals are. And money isn't necessarily the answer.
Right.
We measure money with the trinkets. That if you have this many trinkets, then you're considered successful. There's a lot of miserable people with a lot of money.
That's true.
A lot.
So freedom. Your
It's
answer is
freedom to live the life you want to
Prosperity
live.
is freedom.
Yep.
Freedom to live the life that you want to live.
Yep.
I love that. So we were going to talk about healthcare a little bit.
Why don't we?
Let's talk about healthcare. As a business owner, you provide healthcare to
We
your
do.
employees.
We do.
Which has to be a hefty bill.
It's huge.
And, healthcare costs have gone up dramatically.
They
Do you
have.
know roughly, can you speak about the challenges of providing healthcare as a business owner
Yeah.
today?
So for us, since the Affordable Care Act, our health care has more than doubled. The challenges are cost.
You said more than doubled?
Yes, since the Affordable Care Act.
So
Our
since
healthcare.
President Obama was in
Yes,
office, your
Obamacare, whatever they
healthcare
call
has
it,
more
over
than
that
doubled.
period of time.
I just want to make sure everybody heard that because that's huge.
Yeah, well, we're not alone with that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, not only has the cost increased dramatically, but the benefits and the care have reduced dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the number one.
And so you're paying more and getting less.
Of course.
That was our slogan last summer for our True Cost of Washington campaign.
Yeah, we
Pay
are.
more, get less.
Sure. I mean, my wife is now on my plan since I just got married.
Mm-hmm.
And
Congratulations.
a blessing, soon to be 3 years, to an angel that the Lord brought into my life.
Aw.
She struggles with muscular dystrophy.
Aw.
She's now on my health care.
Yes.
The limits in her treatment and care since she joined my health care have been significant. So now we have to get care outside, out of your pocket or whatever you call that. But it's a requirement. I mean, we have to support our employees with health care. We pay a significant percentage and they pay a significant percentage. I mean, the numbers are just ridiculous. And then now we have co-pays.
Yeah.
Right? It's like auto insurance now. It was never like that before.
Yeah, I do remember when I was growing up that insurance was just for the big things and you paid out of pocket
Correct.
for the little
For
things.
the little things. And if we could get back to that,
Yeah.
and it could be reduced. But again, one size fits all. So now let's look at the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people without health insurance, and they're scared to death.
But I thought everybody had to, buy it now or they would be taxed.
Correct. And the way they buy it is by people that have the ability to pay more.
Yeah.
Us, my company, we pay a lot more. So as I understand, the basic philosophy is dollars are moved over to this fund, which allows those people in need to pay less. Now, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I'm all for truly helping people that are in need. I'm not for scamming the system, which is what goes on way too much.
Wait, back up. Are you for public option for healthcare, government-run healthcare?
No. What I'm saying is I'm all for in everything. If I have the ability to pay a little bit more and it helps somebody else, cool, I'm
Yeah.
fine. Within reason,
Yeah.
of course, because we have our own employees and our own expenses and so on.
Right.
I wish we would shift back more to the private sector. And as you mentioned years ago, and
Yeah.
it wasn't that long ago, that health insurance was for, I had kidney cancer. That was a big deal.
Yeah, that's a
Okay?
big deal.
It was for that. Not to go to the doctor for a checkup and not to go for day-to-day or maintenance kind of things.
Yeah.
And I think that would have a big reduction. But all this stuff got mandated. It's always been a problem. But when the Affordable Care Act came in, like on my policy, I don't know if it's still true, but when it first came out, there was pregnancy coverage for me. Okay, and
For
we're
you?
not- For me, for men.
Let's not go there.
We're not going there. Okay, scratch that.
No, you
Scratch
can leave that in because it's kind of funny.
Anyhow,
We're
but no,
not,
but
we're
that
not
was,
going to go there.
you know what I'm trying to say. They had all these coverages, which was for
Yes.
everybody.
Yeah, it was a one-size-all. It was a one-size-fits-all approach, and it wasn't something that you needed.
Correct. But you couldn't do that. It isn't like, the other thing is you can't cross state lines.
Yeah,
Auto insurance, I can shop that
yeah.
all over the place.
So competition generally drives prices down.
No, not generally. Always. Always drives.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah,
See why I'm interviewing him.
it works. Competition keeps us on our toes, keeps prices down, and keeps service up.
Yes. You know, our company does a lot of surveys nationally on issues that are important to the American people. And we did a survey on healthcare itself recently. And the majority of people do not like healthcare system. They feel that something needs to be done to improve the costs and the service. But the majority of them do not believe that the answer is in a government-funded program.
Yeah, no, it's not.
So we have to come up with free market ways to lower healthcare costs for people.
Yeah, and there's another problem we have. What do we have here in Pittsburgh now? 2 hospitals.
Yeah.
Okay? We used to have 12, 13, 14 hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
But they all got gobbled up by 2 giant entities.
Mm-hmm. Who
Right?
also provide healthcare insurance.
Correct. You talk about a conflict of interest. So they're paying themselves for the services that they're offering. So on one hand, you buy the insurance from them. Then you go to their hospital, and they say to their hospital, "Oh, no, that kidney that you just had removed for cancer, and you've been in the hospital 2 days, you're done. Go home. Day 3, we're not paying for." Who in the hell ever approved of this system?
Well, there's also no transparency. If anything else that you do, like I just put a new roof on my house.
Yeah,
I could talk
you knew
about,
what it cost.
I mean, I got 3 estimates. I knew
Right.
exactly what it was going to cost. I knew
Right.
exactly what materials they were doing, down to the color of the shingle that I picked out, right? And when the job was done, I got the bill and I paid it.
Right.
That does not happen in healthcare.
It does not happen.
In fact, I just heard a story of a woman who got a price for a medical procedure, agreed to it, and then got a bill that was literally like 10 times what was quoted to her. And my son's going through the same thing. You know, he just had some physical therapy for a sports-related injury in his ankle, and you think you're done paying the bills, and another one rolls in. And he's like, "Mom, I thought we had health care."
They just keep coming
He's
and coming
21.
and coming.
I said, "Welcome to like real life, you know?
Yeah,
This is how it is. The bills just keep coming, and you if
See,
you keep
that's
paying
what
them,
I was
that's a
hoping for
problem.
the Affordable Care Act. I was hoping
Yeah.
with true reform, crossing state lines,
Crossing state lines.
competitiveness, break up these insurance/hospital monopolies. None of that happened.
Yeah.
None of it
It
happened.
went the other direction.
It went exactly the other direction,
So if we want to fix healthcare, we need to reverse course.
completely.
I'm in agreement with that.
And we've got to keep these wonderful researchers and doctors that are life-saving people.
Yeah.
We've got to encourage them, keep motivating them, compensate them properly. And we've got to get trust back into the healthcare system.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely lost, I think, a lot of trust through the whole COVID ordeal.
Oh, yeah.
From a government perspective now, let's talk about prosperity, not from a personal perspective of your attitude and your hard work ethic, but from a government perspective, if you could sit down with your legislator and say to him, prosperity for me would be possible if you would what? Fill in the blank.
Well, I think first, if you'd get closer to the community. Whoops, that light went out.
Light went up.
Good, we'll straight take that one from the top, just keep going.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
If you would get closer to, so,
And then we'd go into the
So-
regulations and
or you could say, get closer to your
constituents,
meaning,
listen.
meeting bottom-up solutions, like the answer.
Of course.
The answer to a lot of problems are found with the people closest to them.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, and you represent us,
Yeah,
okay? You represent the views of your community. And you can't please everybody because you got all these, right?
right.
But, and I would also say, lead the
Want me to
way
ask
in
the
term
question?
limits.
Do you want me to start over and
Yeah.
ask the question again?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we're having a little conversation about prosperity, and we talked about how prosperity is possible if you have the right attitude, you have a hard work ethic, and those are all personal traits for how somebody can become prosperous. But put your government helmet on, since I work for a government policy advocacy organization. From a government perspective, if you were talking to your legislature, how would you finish the sentence? Prosperity is possible for me if you blank.
Well, let's go by your own theme of bottom up.
Yeah.
And the thing that I say, getting closer to the customer.
Mm-hmm.
So it would start with, I would say to you, Madam Legislator, how about spending a whole lot more time in your community that you represent?
Mm-hmm.
How many of these guys drift away to D.C. and you hardly ever see them?
Yeah, well,
Right?
that's happened to me recently with somebody I've been trying to work with
Yeah,
for
they're
a
not,
year.
They're not even
They're
around.
not here.
Right. So let's start with that. Again, bottom-up solutions. Let's also, I would like to say to you, Madam Legislator, why don't you lead the way in term limits?
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Why don't you lead the way in freezing giant salary increases?
Mm-hmm.
Lead the way in these ridiculous budget increases. They're all
Mm-hmm.
automatic when it doesn't even make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you lead the way in campaign reform?
Mm-hmm.
How about a crazy idea to have no money?
I mean, all of those things that you're saying will be putting somebody else's needs above your own.
Well, that's what a public servant does.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay? So
Say that again?
that's what a public servant is supposed to do.
Yes.
But I think that sadly, most of our, quote, public servants are narcissist maniacs.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think they go in that way, though. I think a lot of people go in with the right intention.
I hope
But-
you're right. You're probably right, and then they get
They get sucked in by
gobbled
the,
up.
by the money, by the benefits, by the
Yeah,
Campaign
again,
funding
let's make it
by-
clear. There's a lot of good,
yeah,
especially on our state level.
yeah,
You know many personally. I know many personally who I
Yeah.
love and respect, and that really care for the community.
yeah.
So let's not paint a broad brush that all politicians are shitty people,
No.
because they're not.
Well, actually, I'm a politician. I'm an elected school board official. So
There you go. And from what I can see, you're not shitty yet, unless you were on my rock and roll career.
depends on which side of the aisle
Yeah,
you
then there would
ask.
be a problem. But no, okay, so let's assume they go in with all good intentions. And if there's term limits, they're going to come out with good intentions.
Yeah.
Because guess
I
what?
worked for a legislator who set his own term limits.
That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's, to me, the discipline. And if you have term limits,
Mm-hmm.
and whether it's 3 terms, 4 terms, whatever it is, I'm specifically talking about Congress,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't have time to become a billionaire, because you're not making all those connections and you're not doing all those little deals,
Yeah.
because you're serving your time and you're done. But if you're there for 20 years and you're there for 40, that's a career.
Mm-hmm.
That is just ridiculous. So I would say to you, Madam Legislator, term limits, campaign reform,
Mm-hmm.
and get closer to your community, to the people that voted for you,
It's good advice.
or the people that didn't vote for you.
Yeah.
How about representing them?
Well, yeah. It's hard to represent multiple views.
It is. You've got to
I'm
have.
sure there's some challenges.
Sure, there is. It's tough.
But you hit a little nerve with me when you were talking. You mentioned overspending in Washington. We didn't talk about that either.
It's just I don't. These automatic, the whole budget trigger thing, that it just automatically increases.
Yeah.
Could you imagine running your household that way, or a business?
Well, I can just keep paying my bills and getting a credit limit extension on my
And
Visa.
Every day.
And just keep paying my
this
bills with
whole
my credit card?
budget crisis is just so disturbing. We should have line item budgeting. We should have, in business, I called it zero budgeting, and I'll tell you why, because I faced bankruptcy twice in the late 80s
Yeah.
and then after 2001.
Yeah.
We were struggling so much we couldn't afford to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
So we had to buckle down, and we had to look at every single penny we were spending. And then I had to go to vendors and suppliers and say, hey, can you work with us? We're going to chip away. We're going to honor our debts, but we need to get very disciplined in our approach, zero budgeting. So it wasn't like you looked at last year's budget and said it was this amount of dollars.
Right.
No, it was zero budgeting. You started all over,
Zero based.
zero based. So what can we do? What do we have to do to be effective? And when it's public money, no one's going to, it's not their money. It's our money. It's a slush fund. And they're not going to look at it that way.
The more we spend, the more that we're spending in government, it seems that that's one of the main causes that we're having inflation right now. We
Well,
have
all that-
interest rates going up.
And we've
have
devalued the dollar.
The value of
Yeah.
the dollar going down.
It's just basic economics. You know, I'm not that smart, but if you keep pouring all this money into the economy and without anything behind it backing it up, it's just going to absolutely create this inflationary pressure. It's devaluing the dollar. Wages are going up, but they're going up, and they still can't keep up with inflation. So what the hell good is that?
Well, I'm just a little concerned for the future of, my children, the way that the spending is out of control in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, well, we need, and how many years have we been talking about it, but we need a leader that's going to really, really dive in and attack this subject. And I think the public would support it 100%. Nobody wants their benefits cut.
No.
So, if they bring up Social Security cut,
Yeah.
or they bring up this cut, or Medicare cut, or federal defense funding cut, people go crazy. Yet they want the budget under control, but they don't want to give anything. And that's the tough part. That's the tough part.
Well, there's a lot of budget that we don't see, too. So there's a lack of transparency in some of the budgeting in Congress and in our federal government.
Yep.
And we're talking federal government right now. We're
Yeah.
not talking state government. But
I agree.
so June 5th, again, Americans for Prosperity is launching our new campaign called Prosperity is Possible. So in one sentence or less, to you, prosperity is what?
The freedom to live the life you want to live.
I love that.
And it's not measured by trinkets or dollars.
Well, I wish you lots of prosperity in the future.
Thank you.
And I thank you very much for having this conversation with me today and letting me use your beautiful music studio. And I look forward to doing this again sometime.
Thank you, dear one.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming out.
Thank
We
you.
really, and the work you're doing is wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.